Welcome, 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 welcome to Google Drive. I'm excited today. Do sign in for my people who are watching this live to get your certificate, even though we talked about a different plan that we may do. But if you're watching it on YouTube, there's no certificate if you're watching it on YouTube. But I will say that if you look in the resources, the description, the details, right under this video, you'll see the resource link. So right under this video, you will see the resource link. And remember, guys, we do not need videos from our people watching it live. Stay off camera. I am Dr. Desiree Alexander, the founder, CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting. So hello, this is me. I know a lot of you are joining us again. So thank you for that, guys. Some of you, this is your first time. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're crazy and we love Google. So you'll see in a second. Some upcoming webinars next week. So this is the only one for this week. I know we're not used to that. It's the only one for this week. So next week on Tuesday, we're going to have Classroom. And on Thursday, we're going to have Chrome. And then on the following week, on Friday, we're going to have other apps. We've had so many people asking for Sites, which is awesome. Sites is one of the easiest tools, man. That's what I love about it. So Sarah's going to teach us some Sites and the other apps, along with some other apps. And then we have Intro to Zoom and Google Meet. This is going to go through all those settings and all those, like, how do I make Zoom and Google Meet work the way I want it to work? That is on July 22nd. And then on July 25th, we have Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the Library. Desiree, you're going so fast. How do I get to all these? It's the same link on the bottom of every screen, the same link, more details. How do I register? All that stuff is on there. Classroom management and more. In August, misinformation and the information age. And Sarah is back with Beth, templates for teachers. I can't wait for that one, really. Okay, then we have a summer camp that is by Kids Academy. It's for pre-K through third grade students. For parents, it's $20. For teachers, you get a free trial, which covers the summer camp completely for free. Go sign up. It's on my website. And then we have the virtual Teach Tech conference that is $50. And you see it changed from upcoming free to upcoming paid. It's $50, but if you go on my website, you get a 20% off code. What? So do that. And then Rethink Learning Summit is amazing. You get all kinds of all kinds of recorded sessions. You get live sessions. Is all about rethinking learning. Of course, we want to do that coming into this virtual learning that we have coming up. And then for BER, I have sessions this week and then on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You don't have to, like, I think Central is sold out. So even though you may be in Central, you can sign up for Eastern, you can sign up for Pacific. It starts at those different times. But you can sign up for this. It's all about distance learning. And then I also have one about distance learning for ELA classes in August, I think. Ed Change Global, Sarah's teaching. Ed Change Global is a 24-hour global international conference. We have about 500? No, I think the last one was 700 people signed up. So guys, come register. It's completely free, 24 hours of learning. And then we have Sarah's little pictures in my way. Let me move her. The United EdTech Conference. And that is all about elevating people of color's voices in EdTech. So that's going to be a really, really good conference. It's $15, but all of the money that we raise goes towards an educational nonprofit. And then there's the Indiana Connected Educators Conference, completely for free. And I like to say, guys, if you're looking for free stuff, and if you're looking for like PD and you can't find it, you're not looking. I mean, that's all I can say this summer. You're just not looking. So a whole bunch of stuff on my website. We will have an evaluation at the end, and I will give you this link again, so you don't have to worry about that. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to stop sharing my screen so Sarah can start sharing hers. And I am going to look in the chat and see if there's anything I can answer. We have another Georgia. No, that's not what I meant. On the email downloads, have a picture to click on the download. The certificate is just what? Oh, Stella, sweetie, that's a problem with you. So definitely let me know. Get with me, because I don't send pictures. I send PDFs. So I have no clue what that is, Stella, but that's not how it works. So definitely let me know. After this, we can get together and I can help you download your certificate. The certificate is not a picture, it's a PDF. So that should not happen. I think everybody else is just saying, hey, y'all. All right. So guys, I'm going to quit talking and let Sarah take it away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I saw a lot of very familiar names, and I very much appreciate you guys coming back for more. Google Drive is completely different than the other apps, so got to kind of shift our mindsets a little bit. But to get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. For those of you that don't know me, I am a technology integration specialist for the Ross Local Schools. I was classroom teacher for roughly 14 years, and then I've been tech integration for the last 4 years. I connected with Desiree because I had the honor of going to the Google Innovator Academy back in October, and she is my innovator coach. So I am super excited to be here. Google is a big part of my life. I love Google. I've been using Google very heavily for numerous years, and Google Drive doesn't have one particular color. I've been trying to wear a shirt of the particular color of the app. So I proudly am wearing my Innovator t-shirt that we got. It's black, but it's got the Google colors on it. So I just wanted to point that out. Desiree is going to be watching the chat for me, and she will jump in when there are questions and she feels like it's a good stopping point. So please do use that chat to put questions in there, whether I went too fast or you have a question. If you are curious about something, please do pop that in there and Desiree will get that to me. One thing I do want to point out, I want to give a big shout out to Mary, who I did see sign in, and she mentioned in the chat that she was here. So Mary contacted me last Friday, I believe it was, asking me how to get rid of the navigation bar in the lower left-hand corner when you present your slides. And I answered her very honestly. I was like, Mary, I'm like, honestly, I kind of just think that it's not possible. Like, it has to be there. I've never seen it otherwise. And I said, but with most things, try Googling it. I said, I don't have the answer, but that doesn't mean that that's the absolute truth. And it started kind of eating at me, like, is that possible? Because that would be really cool to get rid of that navigation, especially with like a presentation like this, so that it's not constantly in the way. And I found a YouTube video. I was super excited. You had to go into the code of the page and change this, but the guy was, how cool it was. So I emailed Mary back and I was like, Mary, I found something. And she emailed me back. She goes, oh, well, I already found something. And the lady said, Mrs. Talkie Tech, I think was the name on YouTube. And she said, just replace this. And I was like, oh, well, that's a whole lot easier. So I'm constantly learning, and I wanted to share that because I do feel like a lot of the teachers that I work with and that I interact with often say, well, but Sarah, you're so smart. Like, all that. I spend an inordinate amount of time playing with, learning with, reading about things with Google, things with education. So I do invest a lot of time. I would hope that I would have a good grasp on stuff, but by no means do I know everything. I can't know everything. I would never proclaim to know everything. And honestly, Googling it is a wonderful way of helping yourself out. So don't ever hesitate and just straight up type in your question in Google. Just type it in and see what you get back. You might be shocked, like I was. Like, I found this guy, he had like a 5-step way of doing it. And then Mary says, no, just do this. And I'm believing that you can see my screen up here. So you can see the, the URL up here. So all I did was, this was where it's like edit, blah, 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 blah. So I literally just copied and pasted this to the rest of it. Sorry, I've got this bar in the way. I got to get that out of the way. And magic happened, and I was blown away, and I was like, wow, this is great. So thank you very much, Mary. And when I shared this with Desiree, she and I both had noticed the same thing. Obviously, I forced the navigation on this. So when you click on this resource, if you click anywhere on here, it'll take you to Twitter and my website and all that. But when you click and you go, you'll notice that there's no way of like going back. So yes, I'm aware of that. However, I'm going to tell you a little secret. Arrow keys on your keyboard. Do the back arrow and it'll take you back. It'll also navigate you forward. But if you are doing a presentation or you want to share something with your students and you want to keep that black bar navigation down here, that you can use arrow keys to navigate through. So this is the presentation. I just wanted to give you a heads up because I've changed how I shared this out. You're not going to have that little navigation thing that some of us, I think, are very used to. So let's just go ahead and jump in. Google Drive, the way I like to think about it is because when I started teaching, it was a lot of Blackline masters. It was manila folders and hanging folders and 4-drawer filing cabinets. I loved them. I think I had 3 in my classroom, and I put like contact paper on it. It was, you know, you put magnets on it with pictures. Oh, I just loved them. And I had to keep getting more because I just kept shoving more stuff in there. And then I quickly was like, well, I don't have enough space in my classroom. Like, what am I going to do? I'm like, oh, I have file cabinets at home. Ugh, people, I look back on it, and while I love them, I'm also greatly relieved that I could get rid of them because Google Drive has replaced that. Google Drive, in your mind, think of it as your unlimited 4-drawer filing cabinet. Like, it just goes back and back and back. If you ever go into those very large office buildings where they have to keep like paper records, or they still have paper records, and they just have rows upon rows upon rows, that's Google Drive. Especially if you're in an education domain, it is unlimited storage. The one caveat is if you have a personal Google account, you are limited to, I think it's up to 17 gigabytes, which is a lot. It is a tremendous amount. So don't worry about it. And none of your Google applications take up any space at all in your Google Drive. It's all of the things like the PDFs, images, videos, audio files, things that are non-Google products. Those are the items that are taking up the space in your Google Drive. So if you're anywhere close on your personal account, remember school, it's unlimited. If you're anywhere close, it's because of items like this. There is a new shortcuts way of housing things in your Drive, and we'll get to that. You can also now find, if you're not aware of this, those Google Sites that everybody's been asking about. Google Sites now is actually housed in your Drive, which I very much appreciate, because when you're a person that has control over editing access to multiple different Google Sites, like there was the landing page for sites, but it's just so much nicer that you can put it in with any of the resources that are going on to that site, and it just all stays together, and it's beautiful. And the final thing is you can even hold and house and edit Office documents now inside your Google Drive. Just want to throw that out there. That's not a level 1. That's not what we're here for. We're not going to focus on that today, but I do know that oftentimes files from other products are shared in between, and you need to have them somewhere, and it's always very convenient because Google Drive works on your computer, it works on your phone, it works on a tablet, and you can access. So keep those kinds of thoughts in mind too. I'm going to continue on, so just click somewhere on the screen, and I've got 2 places for us to go today. This top one over here to the left is we're going to get to know Google Drive a little bit. And then over here on the right with the magnifying glass, we're going to talk organization. And I do like to get to know Drive first before we organize, because it'll allow us to move through the organization a bit faster if you're aware of and you understand what some of the icons are, the purpose of those icons, and which icons to use and when. So these are both links that will take you to different pieces of this presentation. And then if you want to go back to the title slide, because I had this thought late yesterday, well, Sarah, what if they want to be able to email you? You know, now you know you can do that back arrow of your keyboard, but you can also click on here and it takes you right back to the title slide. So Desiree, any questions before we get started?
Nothing for right now.
Okay. All right. Oh, no? Okay. So these two, the getting to know and organizing drive, like I said, are very tightly connected. So keep that in mind. And it's really good that we've already done several of the Google apps because I talked a lot about the toolbars. And you're going to notice that many of the icons are going to look and feel similar. They're going to operate similarly. So again, pull all of that knowledge, bring it with you, keep it right here because we're going to need that. So let's go ahead and start to get to know Google Drive. It's like, we're driving down the road. That's what I always think, like take control, grab that steering wheel and let's go. And I will say, if you're sitting here kind of sweating and going, oh, like, my drive is a mess, have no fear, okay? It's not something we can magically fix in 5 minutes, but it's summertime. I know you're trying to take a break from hopefully from some stuff, but sometimes it's kind of comforting to get in and clean up one area so that you feel like you have control over one piece. Because I know I'm a control freak too. I like to have control. I like to have organization. So let's keep that in mind too. So let's go ahead and get started. Basically, I've got 7 things for us to go with. And here's where I'm showing you this, but I also want you to know I do go into classrooms and I do help students. Our elementaries only go up to 4th grade because of space issues. Our 5th grade is at the middle school and it's 5 through 8. I was asked a couple years ago by our media specialist up at the middle school. She said, Sarah, is there any way at the end of the year, can you help these kids clean up their drives and get them together so that when they walk into 5th grade, it's not all over the place? I said, sure. Didn't get to it this year. So I've gone in and I love doing this because I think the more we can empower our students, the better their educational experience is going to be. So with you guys, please understand that organizing a teacher or an adult's drive is completely different than organizing a student's. And when I go into a classroom, here's a big tip. If any of you are interested in working with your own students, or you're a tech coach or an integration specialist or a media specialist and you want to employ some of these same tactics, here's probably the best tip that I could give you. Don't pull up your own drive. Don't pull up the teacher's drive. Have a student sit down and project, whether it's because they hop on the teacher's computer because that's what's easiest because that's already connected, or if you have the ability to cast from the student's computer up to the projector. Plus, then their drive looks a lot more similar to all of the other kids. And here's the biggest tip. Pick a student that maybe you'd want to keep a little bit closer eye on and have them be the one that projects. Give them a little bit of specialness, but their computer is projected up on the screen. So you're going to know every little move that they make. And the chances of them, I've never had it where a student gets completely off track from the whole presentation and goes off and does something else. It works like a charm. And then I lay it on to them real thick. I'm like, okay, you're my driver. You're driving. Everybody's watching you, like all these other kids, they're watching your screen. So please promise me that you're not going to click too fast. If I ask you to go back, are you going to be able to do that? And the kids are always like, yes, I can. And it works beautifully. It really does. They do such a wonderful job. They know that they're on display and they're happy to do it. And I just love it. Okay, so that's a big tip. Have a squirrelier student get up there and do it. As a teacher, I'm not afraid to show you my drive. The only time I'm afraid is they go, oh, it's so organized. Well, it's not really. It's organized for me. So we're going to get to it. So the little arrow in the bottom right corner will allow you to move forward in the slide deck. And then my little icon up here, the home button, will take you back. And you'll see those 2 icons throughout the presentation. So here we go. Did you know there are 2 views in Google Drive? Most of the time, the kids have no clue. And many teachers also don't have a clue. But you can see over here, this is the list view. And this is the grid view. This is the exact same Google Drive, I promise you. The exact same ones. You can even match up the folders. They are the exact same Google Drives. It's just how you're looking at them looks slightly different. And there is no right or wrong way to do it. Not at all. Pick the one that works best for you. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I am going to suggest that this might be a good time to actually open up your Google Drive. And you might go, well, but Sarah, I need to be able to see your screen. Yes, I understand that. If you are comfortable, and not everybody's going to be comfortable, and that's fine because you can always come back and watch this later and have your Google Drive open. But what you can do is if you hit the escape key on your computer, because I think it automatically pops you into full screen. If you hit the escape key, it's going to take you out of that full screen. So you can pretend like my whole screen is what you're looking at. Oh, let's go back. I clicked. And I'm going to make this window a bit smaller. And I am going to then over here, let's open this up and let's go to drive.google.com. And I am doing what we're calling the split screen. Let me minimize that, get that out of the way. Okay. So you can see now that I've got the video in one spot and I've got my drive over here. Feel free to do that, and then that way as we're moving through this, you can make these changes in your own drive. If you're not comfortable, don't worry about it. Just leave the screen, grab it from the bottom corner and go back bigger. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there, so if I need to, I can jump back, but these pictures, I think, tell a really good story. So there's no right or wrong answer, and I'm gonna go through this kind of quickly because I want to get really into the actual organization in Google Drive, but these icons are very important. This looks exactly like what it says. It's the grid. You'll see the grid icon when you're in list view. And likewise, you'll see the list icon when you're in grid view. And you can see where the little magnifying glass is. It's more in the upper right-hand corner. So keep that in mind. Click on yours, and I drill this into the kid's head. It is up to you. There is no right or wrong. I prefer list view, and I prefer it because I like to be able to see the whole title, and I like to see who the owner is and the modified. I like those nitty-gritty pieces. A lot of students prefer the grid view where they can see the little thumbnail, like a little thumbnail of the image. Okay, so just real quick, I'm going to pop over here. See, here's the grid view. Click on it. The one thing to note is no matter what you do, your folders will always be up at the top. Always, 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 your folders are up at the top. Your files will always be nested below that. There's nothing you can do to change that. Okay? Moving on. Quick access. Here's one that is very intriguing to me. This quick access, it's Google's AI, and I've got a video here, so you can always come back and watch this piece again later. Quick access is one of those Google's artificial intelligence trying to help you out, saying these are the things that you use most often, or you use this time of day, or whatever. I have turned mine off, but I'm going to show you how you can turn it back on. So find that little gear wheel. And if you remember clearly from forms that we did last week, the gear wheel's your settings. Go ahead and click on that. Click on settings. And then as much as I would love it if they had quick access out here, they don't put quick access out here. They have it under suggestions, but you can see it down here. It says quick access, and I've turned it on because I put a little check mark in there. And as soon as you know that if you put the check mark in there, it turns it on. Taking the check mark off is going to turn it off. So let's see what that does differently in my drive. So you can see right here, it's giving me quick access. Very quickly, right here, I can click on them and I can go. To me personally, that takes up a lot of real estate. I'm not a big fan of it. So I go back into my settings and I turn it off. I'm one of those nerdy Google users that uses Google Drive about 8 billion times a day. So Google's artificial intelligence hasn't come up with their algorithm to really understand what it is that I'm looking for at any point in the day that I go through. And I remind teachers and students of that all the time. It's artificial intelligence. It's not smarter than me. I always know what I want to do. Okay, well, not maybe always, but you know, I have that mindset. I'm the human, so keep that in mind too. And again, there's nothing wrong. A lot of students and several teachers that I've worked with really appreciate quick access. They're like, oh no, like that's always a good thing for me. Like, I'm like, hey, great, keep it, no problem.
Sarah, do you suggest turning off any other suggestions?
The other thing, and I think we were going to get to it next, if I'm correct, it's the details and activities. This is another piece where people kind of go back and forth. So let's jump into that. If you notice on this screen, it's just full of files and folders. And then there's also this that can show up. So I'm going to jump back into my drive. I don't have it open on this one. And honestly, not for any given reason. Like I jump back and forth. But if you notice this little eye with the circle, the information circle, I feel like this is becoming more of a universal. If you see this on a website, it means some kind of information. If you click on it, it brings up this column, and it kind of splits your drive into 3 columns. You've got this left-hand column, more navigational, the bulk part of your drive, and then this informational type column here with the details. So if I were to click on a folder, it's going to give me all of the details of that particular folder. And if you notice down here, you can even add a little description. The other piece is this activity piece, where it gives you somewhat of a time. I would not take this as a perfect solution here, but it does give you somewhat of a timestamp for the activity that's been going on in that particular folder. As a teacher, I highly, highly, highly suggest this. I use this all the time when I would have a folder that was shared with students, or that had their work in it, or they had shared their work with me. You know, somehow we had a shared folder, and I could see the activity. So if this was my Google Classroom folder, which it is, and there's Google Classrooms on the inside of it, I could look at any of these and I could see kind of the timestamp. Again, it's not a foolproof, it's not 100%, but it does give you some idea of what's been going on in this folder. And you can scroll. Notice my scroll bar gets bigger and bigger. So that is one that I do suggest as a teacher. At least you're comfortable and you know how to turn that on and off. It's a little bit easier than going, you know, depending on where you're at, you could go into Google Classroom or to Schoology or whatever your LMS is, and you could pull up the kids' files that way, and then you could go into version history. Sometimes it's just easier to pull it up on here. And here's the benefit of knowing this too. If this works on your Google Drive, it also works on your student's Google Drive. So if they say, well, I don't have that, or I can't find that, they could also pull up their Google Drive, and you could do a little bit of searching. And then when you click on the activity, it's going to show you what their activity was or was not. Again, I always go back to, I taught 7th and 8th graders who, by and large, they were great kids. Every once in a while, I had a few squirrely ones that would try to hoodwink me, and I would be like, oh, look, it shows that you just made this. Oh, did you not? You just clicked on it and opened it up. Can you see that? And then they were like, oh. I'm like, that's right. I'm going to use technology too. We're going to use it. Going to help you out here. So then they, duck their heads and they walk back to their class, to their seats and all that. That is something that I do suggest that you're at least comfortable with finding. If you don't want to keep it open, it's as easy as clicking on that eye with a circle around it. Easy enough. And then come back to this when you have questions. Again, no right or wrong on any of this stuff. Like, that's the beauty, and sometimes for some people that's also the hardship of Google Drive, is because it can be very, very personal, and it should be very personal, because once you own it, you're gonna be a lot more comfortable maneuvering and housing things and finding things and all of that kind of stuff. So moving on, task 4. If I could click there. All of the icons, and you can see there's tons of icons, but a lot of them are very similar. And like I said before, if you've been with us for even one of the previous webinars, or you've watched one of the previous webinars, or you've used Google, a lot of them are very intuitive. The trash can, it's going to delete stuff. The question mark, it's going to provide some sort of help. The gear wheel, the settings, This person plus, hopefully you recognize that as the share icon. The eye we just talked about, the grid, which I do believe has gotten a slightly updated look. It's not the 4 anymore. I think it's a 6 grid. Thank you, Google, for changing things. Love it. So all of those over here too, and notice there's my shark tooth. Shark tooth shows up in Google Drive too. And when I see a shark tooth, click on it. That's right. Keep that in mind too. The one other thing that is newer, it's not new, is along the far right hand side. It's the calendar, the keep, and the task icons. You may have seen them and you may go, I don't know what they are, what they're for. It's quick access. Okay, so again, Google's trying to keep things in their ecosphere. They're trying to keep them, together and simplified. So it's kind of cool because a lot of the things that you might do with Google Drive and Calendar and like they might be tied together. So you can click on here and you get a real quick look at what your calendar is. Again, if you don't need it, close it up. You're going to pop into Google Keep. Maybe you need to make a note of something in Keep. Maybe you're organizing and you're like, oh wait, where did I leave off? Open up Google Keep. It's right there. Let's take a note and say, keep working. You got this. Smiley face, right? And then you say done. And then your note's right there. And then you can always pop it out. And Google Tasks, if you're a person that likes to have like line item tasks, go for it. You can even make multiple lists, right? You can create a new one. My to-dos. And add stuff to your tasks. So it's right there. And if you notice, it also shows up in Gmail. So it kind of goes across several of the applications. Now that I think about it, I think it's also maybe in some of the apps. But I don't want to say that too confidently because I'm not exactly sure. The other big place is over here on the far left. And again, I'm keeping in mind that this is an intro class. This is not everybody is an expert and we're ready to dive a lot deeper. Over here on the far left, My Drive, which is the main part, like it's the bulk of what you'll do, is right here. Do you see this right-facing shark tooth? Notice how I just changed the direction. If you click on that, I love this. It gives me the whole drop down. And I would call this the tree, the organization tree over here. Notice it just takes all of my folders and pops them right here. It's only going to display your folders though. Notice none of my files are going to show up down here. It gives you just quick access of finding things. And anytime you see the little right-facing shark tooth, you can click on it and you can see, holy cow, look at all my photos that are in there, right? Or in Google Classroom. Yep, here's a list of all of the Google Classrooms that I have. If I want to go into my newest folder, you can see I've got 3 folders in there. I love that little tree. And if there's even folders inside of folders, anybody? Folders inside of folders? Like me? I love it. You can keep going. And you can keep opening that tree until you get to a point where he's downward facing again and there is no more folders. He's not going to open up anymore. But you can see it does give you a very nice organizational path that you can see. And when you're ready to and you want to jump right into this folder, there you go. It's very quick and easy. You go right in there, but you can see the breadcrumb trail. I love that. I heard that a while back. That's the breadcrumb trail. Okay. Let's close up that. Shared drives, I would say, at its very basic, how did I put it on here? It's really, honestly, it's bigger. It's a way to share more, right? And the big thing with shared drives is no one is the owner, but then everybody's the owner. And I know that sounds very confusing, but I also feel like there are a lot of people that are working to get their minds around it. So we're not going to jump into that too deeply. So if you have questions specifically about shared drives, I'm pretty competent with them. I'm not going to tell you that by any means I'm an expert, and I know that they've recently come out with some new ways of being able to share. We do use them in my district to an extent, and they are used very well. The shared with me, I'm going to say this right now. Don't go there. And I know that sounds so backwards. Don't go there unless you absolutely have to. Okay, it's a big, dark, deep black hole. We'll cover more of that when we actually get into the organization. Recent, it just gives you like a chronological listing of the items that you've been in. The starred is very helpful if you have certain things that you definitely want to hold on to and you want to find them very, 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 very quickly. Think about it as a bookmarking tool inside of Google Drive as opposed to a bookmarking tool up here. And then your trash, obviously it's the garbage. And I always like to tell kids, I'm like, do you go rummaging around in the garbage can? And they're like, well, no. I'm like, then don't go into your garbage. Number one, don't worry about throwing things away because you can go into your garbage, but like you don't, if you've trashed it for a reason, so leave it there. Brief overview of icons. And then here's the world's skinniest snowman. We've talked about him. There he is. There's my little guy. Click on him. He's going to allow you to have more options. And again, a lot of these are dependent upon what you've selected. They're dependent upon which skinny snowman that you're talking about. So just click on him. Check him out. See what he's got hiding behind him. And then finally, there are some shortcuts. And we'll get into this definitely when we go through and we start doing some of the organization pieces. So keep that in mind as well. And there's no way I could have put in all of the shortcuts that are even possible. So I did link down here to a website that does share a lot more, and it gives you a lot more detail about many of these different shortcuts. My favorite are the P and the N, just a heads up. All right, Desiree. That is the overview. That's the getting to know Google Drive. We are ready to organize unless there are questions.
I do have a question about my favorite for later, but we just had one that popped up, so I wasn't able to read this one yet. But Sarah, I noticed that when I download anything, it goes directly into my drive. This goes for any type of document. Is this normal? Mary, do you mean when you download or when you upload? I'll get more information, Sarah. You can keep going.
All right, so now we are on to my fave. Like, let's organize, shall we? I love this part. Okay, so let's jump into 6 steps. 6 steps to organizing Google Drive. We're gonna have to do some thinking here, people. And I know it's Monday. It's hot where I am. It's very hot and it's very muggy. And it just rained this morning. And I'm thinking it's probably hotter and it's muggier outside. So think as much as you want to. I also have the 6 steps. Here's like my little title slide. The bonus, I believe there are 4 bonus slides on here, which we'll get to for sure because there's a couple things that I just absolutely love. Getting started. Yes. Sorry, I had to think for a minute because I just recognized those icons. Yes, I put them in there purposely. Again, keep in mind, if you are working with students, organizing them is going to feel very differently than when you're organizing with adults. So some of this stuff will apply, but not everything, in large part because if you do use Google Classroom, and I know that Schoology does this because the grades 5 through 12 at our district does use Schoology. They do use that pre-created, Google makes the folders for them in their drive, and Schoology creates folders for them in their drive, which is wonderful. It also does that for teachers, whether they want them to or not. That's just part of it. Embrace it. Love it. It's great. But teachers also have a whole lot more files, a whole lot more media and all that kind of stuff that they're organizing in their drive than most of our students. So keep that in mind. It's going to feel a little bit different. So you can apply some of this to your students, but maybe not everything. So here's where I start. And here's where I need you to start because I have these conversations quite often of, Sarah, my drive is a mess. Will you help me? And I will never turn you down because I love organizing, whether it's at home, whether it's digitally, whether it's at school. I just love it. I love organizing, and I love coming up with a way that works for you. Because I often have teachers go, just tell me your system. I'll do it your way. And they're like, oh, that way one of us will know. And I'm like, no. I can't just tell you my method. I can't just have you duplicate my way of organizing. It's not going to work for you. We would never let our students take that path of just saying, just tell me the answer. I'll just do that. You want them to figure it out, right? You want them to take the ownership. You want them to take the lead in it. So I'm going to ask you to take the lead in this too. So I think of them as buckets. You could think of them as baskets. You could think of them as swimming pools right now if you wanted. I mean, you could think of them as whatever, but you've got to categorize your stuff, especially if you've been using Drive and maybe these last several months, it's just a matter of staying afloat, right? So you just have a whole bunch of files sitting in your Drive. You've no semblance of order to them. Now's the time to take a deep breath. We're going to do it one step at a time. And I promise you, we're not going to go gangbusters for hours and hours and hours, right? You have that as an option, but you don't have to. So think of these buckets. What are these big, huge topics in your life, right? And if you're in your school account, like think about what are your big buckets at school. So for me, right now, trying to help you think through this, right? The big buckets that I have are my one building, Elda, and my other building, Morgan. See, my left hand's able to come up a little bit higher. I'm working on it, guys. I'm recovering from that shoulder surgery. But I also have stuff that's specific just to this particular school year. So I'm like, okay, so I've got 3 buckets going right now, Morgan, Elda, and then the current school year. And I go, ooh, what about the stuff that I have to do for the district? Okay, so that's another one. So I've got 4 buckets going on. And I'm like, I do like to have like a miscellaneous or an other folder. So that's 5 buckets. And remember, these are my big ones. These are not like my fine, like I'm looking down into detail. I'm not there yet. I'm talking about the big ones. So if you have a piece of scrap paper, or you've got your Drive open, you could just create a little Google Doc real quick and type out your big buckets. What are they? If you're a language arts teacher, my friend Julie, I sat down with her years ago. We did summer school together. Oh, that could be another big bucket for me, right? Like as I start talking and thinking about it, we were told that we were not going to have Office anymore, so we had to transfer everything over to Google. So she and I sat down and we started talking through it. And she was like, well, I have reading and writing and grammar. And I said, okay, great. Like that's great. Like, let's do that. And I think she came up with 1 or 2 more, right? So we started off with those big buckets. And then we went through and we put things where they made sense, right? Like that's the biggest piece. Start out with something big and then tuck things in. So that's step number 1. Come up with those buckets and then you'll be able to move forward. Okay, if you start out big. Step number 2 is we're going to take those buckets that you just came up with and let's make them their own file folder. And like literally that's all we're doing. We're just making folders. Okay, so we can do that, right? So we're going to come over here to my Drive and I'm going to stay in my Drive and I'm going to go to my newest folder. Okay, so you can see that I have 3 folders right now and I have a couple of files. Now, what I've got is my district file. I've already created that. I've got my Elda file and I have my Morgan file. So when I want to create a new file, take a look on your screen. I'm sure you see it. Top left-hand corner, the big new button. We've gone there. We've created docs there. We've created sheets there, slides. We've created them right here. Did you notice up at the top above that, remember how I said folders always come first? Here you go. Let's create a new folder. So I'm going to put in, and I'm just going to go ahead and get ahead of the game, the 2021 school year. I'm just going to create that folder. And notice it's organizing it for me, right? It's putting it alphabetical. And please do notice this. This is something that is a great piece of advice here. It will read numbers before it reads letters. We're not going to talk about anything else just yet. I promise we'll get to it. Okay, stick with me till the end because I already know what people are thinking. We'll get there. And then let's create folder. You can come back over here, or because it's Google, guess what? You have more than one way. You click on this little shark tooth. You can create a folder here. If you do a 2-finger tap or a right click on your screen on the main part, not on a folder, you can create a new folder this way. So let's call this one Other. There it is. So I've created my big ginormous buckets, right? Which is wonderful because I've got that. I'm ready to go. Already feeling better. Already feeling better about this, okay? So I'm getting that. And if you have other folders there, that's fine. Just leave them. Okay, so we've made our big buckets. We've turned those buckets now into folders. So far, no big deal, right? We're good. We're fine. And like I even say up here, ignore the folders that you currently have. We'll come back to them. Now, when we're talking about folder names, I kind of alluded to this too. Clear and simple. I've done the work. I've been there. I have created these unique and catchy names, and then I can't remember them. If it's the main folder, that's not a problem. But it's when your whole naming system, if you try to be like real creative and real inventive, it might backfire. It backfired on me quite often because I'd be like, oh, what did I name that? Why didn't I just call it Other? Why did I have to come up with that other creative name? And creativity is a great tool to have, but sometimes we've just got to be simple. Just go for the simplicity and try to think through what your names are, and it'll help you out big time. I promise you. So let's continue on. Step 3. See, we're almost halfway there. Isn't that great? Let's conquer the files. This is really the time-intense piece to it. So I'm going to go through this and show you some of these different things. However, this is the place, like if you look down here, do you notice the you do part? Set a timer. This is my gift to you. We could be easily overwhelmed, and you look at your drive and you go, there's no way I'm ever getting this thing organized. I just want to maybe start new. Delete it. No, don't do that. Don't get frustrated. Give yourself a chance, okay? I promise this will work as long as you're willing to take 10 or 15 minutes at a time. You could schedule an alarm to ring at 2 o'clock every day, and you say, okay, I'm going to put everything else down, and I'm going to devote the next 15 minutes to organizing whatever I can get done in my drive. Timer goes off, you get up and you move on. I've had teachers say, well, I can do that. I can devote 10 minutes. I can devote 15 minutes. I can do that, Sarah. And I say, great. Over time, you're not going to tackle it all today. Unless your drive looks like this, then maybe you could tackle it today. But if you're somebody that has been teaching for a while, and especially given what we all just survived and came through and created all of these files and activities, and stuff was shared with us and all of that, there's probably a lot there, and it's okay. 10 or 15 minutes, even during the school year, I would have teachers say, well, what do you think if I set like 1 day a week and I just did 15? You've got to work with what you're willing to do, right? So take that 15 minutes, whether it's every day, whether it's once a week, sit down and work through your folder. You won't regret it. I promise you, you won't regret it. And a lot of us have the watches you can set the timers for. You got your phone. You could go to a new tab and you could set a timer on there for 15 minutes. It's great. So now let's actually conquer. That is probably the best tip that I could give you, is set that timer. Don't sit there for an hour or 2 straight unless you really, really want to. And that's okay. There are times where you get digging around in your closet and you clean it and you're just like, I'm just going to power through. Do what works for you. Okay, so we're going to come back and we're going to start at the top of our files, and then we're going to decide very, very quickly where it goes. Don't put a whole lot of thought and effort into this. So if you're a language arts teacher, you have reading, writing, and grammar, and you have a file, very quickly just decide it goes in writing, it goes in reading, it goes in here. Like, just do it very quickly. So I'm actually going to go back to my drive now because I created this new folder. So I'm going to go back to my drive. I'm going to open up my tree, and then I'm going to open my newest folder right here, because I'm going to show you what I absolutely love about having this open here on the left. Is I can take my files, which I see right here, and you can see I've left this in Gridview. It just changes that I don't see that ginormous picture. I can just see the titles of the assignments, or the files, sorry. But let's go back to Gridview because they're a little bit bigger. It's a little bit easier to see. So you start going through this 5 cool assignments. Okay, I'm going to put that in other. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it and I'm going to drag it. See how it's kind of blue? It's shady, it's hovering, it's coming over. I'm going to put it in other and then let go. And then you get that little confirmation message down in the bottom left-hand corner. And then you look at this. If you don't know what you need to do with it, I would suggest just skip over it for now. Otherwise, make a very quick decision. I'm going to put this into my district. I'm going to put this into my other. You say, oh, Sarah, like, I can do this. And I say, of course you can. But you might also say, well, Sarah, you also said Google lets you do it multiple different ways. Of course. Okay, so you click once on here, kind of shady and blue. You can come up to your skinny snowman, and there's this move to folder. You can even see it, move to. When you click on it, it brings open a new menu. Find the folder that you want it to go to. We were going into my newest folder, and then I'm going to put this in my 2021 school year. And then you click move. Also, you could do the 2-finger tap on here, and you get the same move to option. So really, right click, 2-finger tap, go to the skinny snowman, drag and drop it over, whatever floats your boat. You might also get to a point where you say, well, Sarah, I know that this one, and this one all need to go into the same folder. Can I grab more than one at a time? And I say, absolutely you can. So I always start in the top left when I'm doing this. I prefer the shift key. So I hold down the shift key, and then I either tap, or I love to use my arrow keys. For me, it gives me a lot better control, I feel. I do see a lot of students that the mouse gets very movie on them, like it starts sliding all over the place, and then they're clicking and dragging and they're not even sure what's going on. But my favorite is to click on the first one, hold the shift key down, and then use your arrow keys, and you can select, and now I'm moving down. You can select as many of these as you want at a time, and then watch what happens. I've let go. You see both my hands up here. They're all still shaded in blue. I'm going to pick them all up at once. And this does take a little bit of trial and error. If it doesn't work for you the first time, I promise, like, everybody goes through this. You have to like really get comfortable with it. Click once, and then when you pick up and you drag, did you see how it took like a bunch of them and it brought it together? And you can even see that red circle that shows you that I'm moving 24 files. Okay, and you can hover over whichever. And if you decide you don't want to do that, like let's say I go, I only meant to grab like 4, just bring it back and let go. And then they're still there. Okay, so moving files could be a very quick way of organizing. And there's some people that will say that you should never have any files, that you should have everything put into folders. I disagree with that. I like having some files down here. I have files that don't particularly fit well in a folder or in multiple folders. I want them here. Maybe it's because I'm not done with them yet. And that's my way of finding them quickly because I don't really have a home for them yet. Or maybe it's just something that, like this better searching in Google Drive. Maybe I just want to have it here. Maybe I'm running a demo for my teachers and I'm saying, this is how you organize Google Drive. Maybe you need to have some files there to actually organize. So there's nothing wrong about having files down here. And notice, like, this icon tells you that it's not your traditional something. It's not your Google Doc, because this is a Google Doc. That's a Google slide. That's a form. This is a sheet. Your icons will help you out. I did have a PDF. I think I moved it though. Here's even a code that I wrote. Ooh, that was tough. Here's a My Maps. Here's a PDF. See, the little icons will start to really help you better understand what all of these files are. And you can see, like, there's a video, a form, Google products, PDFs. This is where I'm saying your drive can hold pretty much anything. I've not found, there's a couple like really odd files that I haven't been able to save in my drive, but for the most part, it's really worked very nicely. And here's a Google site right here. They're all hanging out right here on my drive. Now, I don't have any of them that I noticed. Yeah, I don't have any. But you might have a file and you go, Emily's spelling words. Huh, I wonder what that even is, right? And this is where if your naming convention for the files didn't work out so well, very easily you click on it one time. Remember I talked about this. Here's my favorite shortcuts. You ready? This blew me away when I found this out. I think I learned this like 2 summers ago. So you click a file, ready? And then just tap the letter P. I'm waiting. It's a preview. It shows you an actual preview of the file. So if you have any of those untitled files hanging around, you really don't know what they are, maybe you have about 20 of them, not uncommon, by the way, but you could click on one of them and then you preview it. And then here's the best part. Ready? And say this no longer is going to be unnamed. You come up here, see how that turns into a hand? I'm going to click on that and I can either completely change this to just spelling words. I can rename it. Even if that had said untitled, I can go in here and I can name it whatever I want. Here's my other little trick for quickly going through your files. Let's say I don't need this anymore. Okay, you could go out of it and you could then throw in the garbage. Here's my tip. Title it, delete. And I'll show you why in a minute. So I've named the file delete. Do you notice now these little carrots? Which I believe is my tip number 4. Nope, it's preview. So it's gotta be 5. Yep. See those little carrots there? They show up. So once you're in preview mode, you can now navigate all the way through your file list. And if you say this example doc, ooh, that's really my color sort document. Name it. Go for it. Ready to go. And then you can arrow through. Notice I've got one on the right. I also have one on the left. So I can go back and forth. Here's Slides Mania. Love this lady. She shares out all these Google Slides. They're wonderful. Anybody notice the little snowman up here, top right? See him? If you click on him, look what you got. You have many different things that you can do. I do wish that Google would just go ahead and put a trash can in here because you can't easily delete right from here. I would love it if they did, but they haven't listened to that feedback just yet, which you can give feedback, and I would suggest you give feedback, and Google listens. So you can rename here, you could add a star to it, you can move it. So if you're ready to organize, go ahead, click on that. Let's put that in my newest folder. And let's put that in other, because that's just a template for right now. And then keep on going and go through all of your files until you get done, and it'll let you know, you'll be at a point that you're done. And remember how I named that one delete? Imagine if I had named maybe 14 of those untitled, those fictional untitled files that I had in here. If I had them and I had renamed them all delete when I was going through, they're now all grouped together because this is all alphabetical. And then you just pick it up and you can drag it over. Gotta scroll down a bit, throw it in the garbage can, right? So that's why I say if you're in preview mode, which again, you select a file, tap the letter P, and when you want to rename it delete, because this tells your brain then, if your timer goes off, ding, 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 okay, I'm done, I'm getting up. When you come back to it tomorrow or in a week, you know that you've already gone through that file. You already know that you need to delete it, and then they're grouped together, and then you just do that mass delete, and then it's gone, it's out of your drive, and you feel so much better. Okay? Desiree, I'm going to pause there. Any questions?
I think we kind of handled one. We do have one about printing, but I'll ask you that a little bit later. Can multiple files have the same name of delete?
I'm pretty sure. Here, let me show you my second favorite tip, right? So I can see this. This is where the Gridview does come in very handy. I can see a preview of this, and I can say, I don't need this anymore. I did this. I don't even know why I have this. Maybe I have like 5 copies of this. So if I want to rename it here, click on it once and then tap the letter N for new. There you go. Pops up that whole rename thing. And let's name it delete. Sure enough. Yep, they're both named the same. Now they are different file types, so let's just click on that one, tap the letter N for name, and let's name it delete. Yep, they're sitting there side by side. Sure enough. I'm hoping that answered that question.
It did. We actually answered it in the chat. It just popped up as soon as you asked for questions.
Oh, no problem. All right, I do want to go back to 4. So again, I'm in the presentation mode of the resource that I shared out. I'm going to use my left arrow key to go back, make sure that I covered everything. And that's the other thing that I want to be you to be mindful of. Do not be afraid to delete, right? We don't have to keep everything. We might have unlimited storage, but that does not mean we have to keep everything. If it's a blank document, you have no idea why you have it, get rid of it, okay? Don't sit there and go, oh, well, I could use that again next week. Nope, just get rid of it. Be done with it, clean up your folders, and be ready to move on, right? And here's another tip. Don't say I'll do it later. Just take care of it. Delete it, name it, file it, move on. All right, so we talked about the carrots. The skinny snowman shows up, and you can even do some items within that little skinny snowman. Okay, so here we go. Here's step 6. And this is truly the biggie. Once you have taken care of, oops, sorry, review. Once you have taken care of the bulk of your files, and like I said, it's okay to leave files here. There's not a problem leaving them here. Once you've taken care of that, now you need to jump into each of these folders and you need to organize those. The files down below are not super daunting. That's why I suggest you start with them. But once you start getting into these folders, especially ones that maybe you've already done, folders inside of folders, inside of folders, and you get down to a point where you're like, I don't even know what this folder was for. That's where it kind of gets into the tough questions. So let's go into my newest folder. And here again is where you notice if you leave your tree open here on the left, it works very nicely for when you start digging in to your files. You can be dragging and dropping You can be opening up folders over here on the left that you need. You go, oh, well, that makes sense. This is going to go over here. So keep that in mind. That's what I really do love about this side organization tree. Now, here's where you probably will want to start. It's like you're kind of coming back full circle. So let's say I am in my 2021 school year folder. So this was that brand new one that I created, that big bucket that I'd created. I already put something in here. So now you focus just on this topic of your school life, right? We all wear so many different hats. I want you to just think about this particular school year and ask yourself, A, does it need to be divided up anymore? No, I'm just gonna, maybe this is where I'm gonna hold the master schedule. Maybe this is where I'm gonna hold the current contact list for my district. This is where I'm gonna hold the contact list that I received from my school for my particular students that I'm having this year. Anything that is just that narrow focus of this particular school year, keep it here. Maybe you do have another folder. Maybe you do need to have a folder because that's where you have, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that might be general enough to keep in here. Create a folder. New folder, and call it maybe my templates. Maybe you want to have a folder for this particular school year and you want to hold those templates in there. Go ahead and do that. Okay, so you take those big buckets and now you're starting to divide those up into smaller buckets within this big bucket. When you're ready to, you can come from this breadcrumb trail. You can just click and it takes you back to that folder prior to where you were. So I think probably the best way to think about it is, and this kind of sounds funny to me, but I love it. It's the parent folder. So this is your ultimate parent, right? And then this becomes the parent of these folders. And then when you go in here, this is the parent of this folder. And that's why they call it the breadcrumb trail. Because if you go out further, some of these older folder names will start to kind of disappear, and it kind of like the little dots there, like a little breadcrumb. But you can always use this as your navigation toolbar as well. Okay, so you've got the newest folder and you're starting to take those big buckets and you're starting to subdivide them. And this is probably where you're going to run into, is this the right way? Is this the wrong way? You can always pivot. And if you don't know, maybe just put all of your files in the big bucket and then see how it goes. Now, here's a big, huge, massive tip for you. Now that you've created the big buckets, and then you created these new folders, and then you've gone through and you've done the work of moving your files over, and then you went through and you moved any of the contents from your previous folders. Maybe you did some reorganization. Maybe you were able to pull that Unit 6 American Revolution folder and you pulled it over into your new 8th grade social studies folder, right? You just moved all of that content over. And that's fine, and you're feeling really good. And you're like, man, I've got this. Like, I've got my drive organized. Yes. You're feeling great. And that is awesome. That's when you go back and you delete everything that you just named deleted. Go back and get rid of them, and then you're really going to feel really good. Set that timer. Look for one folder at a time. If you're feeling really good, keep on going. No problem. But it's going to take some time, and it's going to take an evolution. I didn't come by my organization super quickly. I had to learn it. I had to really kind of become adjusted to it. And it takes time, and you'll perfect it. And then when you add hats and you get rid of hats, things are gonna adjust. So don't think that you're ever gonna have like the perfect system. You won't. So let's keep going. Let's see what else. Now we get into the bonuses, right? Here's the bonus area, people. This is where organization is really going to be wonderful. So if you use Google Classroom, And I do know that Schoology will do this as well. I'm not super well versed on some of the other LMSs. So if you use a different LMS, maybe yours does that. Maybe Desiree can answer that in the chat. But these are the two that I'm very well versed in, is when you create that Google Classroom and you add in students, it's going to create a folder in the teacher's drive and in your student's drive. And then any of the assignments that you create is going to be created inside of that folder. And we'll talk about Google Classroom next week, but don't go through and start deleting that folder either. Okay, so that's not a great organization method when the school year is over. Hold on to that folder. We'll talk about that next week. But do know that when you create that, and that's also another huge reason why, use the tools that you have available to you, whether it's Google Classroom, Schoology, another LMS, what have you. Use those tools because they're going to help this. They're really going to help force that organization back here in Google Drive. So if I were to come back to my classroom folder, you can see here's my, let's go into this one. This was a class that I was a student in. I only have one file in here, and that's okay. Maybe I had to create a lot of stuff and it didn't force through here. But in a different class that I was in, see, these are the files that I did. So all my files for this particular class are going to be in there. That's as a student. As a teacher, it's going to be where you have folders, and then in each of those folders is all of your students' work. So it does help you. It helps you create that organization. Leave it alone. It works nicely. So that's bonus number one. Maybe before we talk about bonuses, hold up. I'm gonna pause there. I'm gonna come back because I remembered I talked about the whole shared with me, and I said we'd get back to it. So I'm gonna close all of this up. Here's shared with me. And I'm telling you, deep dark black hole. I don't know what half of this stuff is, because when people start sharing and they share stuff across things that you're connected to, folders that have been shared with you, and it just becomes this deep, dark, black hole of a lot of stuff. And then you're like, I don't even know what half of this is. And is that a bad thing? Some people might think that it's a bad thing. I could keep scrolling people, and I'm telling you, I don't recognize half of this stuff. So then you say, well, Sarah, but how do I find the stuff that's shared with me? Let's pause and let's think about this. If you're using something like Google Classroom, go to Google Classroom to find it from your students. If it's a professional, like a colleague to a colleague, or from your administration to yourself, you probably got an email. You could look in your email. That also can be like a treasure trove of a black hole. Here's what I suggest. And this is going to take a little bit of learning, but it's super easy. So instead of coming here to this shared with me, because I have a lot of teachers that say, I want to organize it, I want to move it, I want to put it in folders. You can't do it. So stay in your drive, and let's go into this fake world where, what if I want to know, I want to find the Google Slides that are mine. I'm looking for something of my own because I can't find it because my drive still isn't organized. I want to find a Google slide that is mine, and it's talking about math, right? So you see my little shark tooth up here? Go ahead and click on that little shark tooth, and it's going to bring up this menu. So this is my alternative. Remember, don't go to share with me, go to the shark tooth, okay? So remember what I had said. I said, I'm looking for a Google slide, so I'm going to click on this shark tooth, and you could look for any of these media types. So it could be you're looking for a folder, it could be that you're looking for a PDF, audio, a Google site, a shortcut, a drawing, like whatever it is that you're looking for. I was looking for a slide, which is a presentation that I had created. So this is my favorite, and you could leave this at any one. You could say it was owned by me, or you say, I know Desiree shared this with me. I know it was her. But did she? Was it her? Was it Was it the other member of our cohort? Man, I don't. So maybe you know that you didn't create it, so click on that. Or if you do know who created it, maybe you are confident. You could come over here and you could start typing in a name. Let's say I know that I created it in my school account. You click on that and it's going to narrow that down. So already be thinking about what this is going to look like when you click that search button for everything that I had in my drive, right? It's huge. You're saying, Drive, I only want you to send me back any of my Google Slides. So we've already gotten rid of every other file type. Do you see why I'm liking the search as opposed to the shared with me? It's very, very helpful. So come down to that. You know that it was shared from this particular person, in this case, my school person. I've just narrowed it down to that much of my drive that it's gonna share back to me. It's gonna show me. Now, if you know more about this, you could put items in here, but you don't have to. And in fact, I'm just gonna leave it. And I'm just gonna say search. It's gonna do its thinking, and look what it shares back with me. It shares back. Okay, so now it's thinking, oh, I clearly share a lot of slides with myself. But that's a whole lot better than the 13 gigabytes of stuff that I have, right? And then here's where maybe, remember how I had said a math thing? Go back to your search options, stay with the presentation, a specific person, and has the word math somewhere. So again, you're taking your whole drive, down to your slides, down to Sarah Kiefer from Ross, and now I'm even saying I just want the ones that have math on it. And you say search, and keep thinking, there you go. I have all of 5. 5 out of my entire drive. It brings me back to these 5. And it was just a couple of clicks. Presentation shared by my school person, and then math. It's wonderful. I even love this. Like, I know it was myself and this other teacher and this teacher. You could put people's names in here and put very little up here. It works wonderfully. Don't go to your share with me. Do yourself a favor. Do me a favor. Don't go there. This is a much better and far more effective way of finding what it is that you need. Okay? And when you're done with that, the little X, get rid of it. All right, Desiree, any questions? I'm going to pause there for a second.
Not right now.
Okay. So moving on. Bonus number 2. Remember I said stick with me? This is truly the fun part. Let's do the heavy lifting first, and now we can have a little bit of fun. Okay, you ready? And maybe you already know this. Maybe you don't. But you can put color on your folder, and you can add emojis to your folder. And I love this. It's fantastic. Ready? Okay, so I'm going to go back to my drive. I'm going to pull up my newest folder because you can see I've already done that with several of them. So you can see in here, my district folder is a different color, and I've got a little smiley face emoji next to Elda. Now, the reason that I show you this is a couple of fold. I'm a very visual person. I love color. It means a lot to me, and I know that sounds weird. I think I talked about this in the forms session. When I first started creating forms, I used blue for my 7th graders and red for my 8th graders. Not really even specifically for them. It was more for me so that when I saw this, it reminded me like, this is 8th grade stuff or this is 7th grade stuff. As a teacher, you're going back and forth all the time. Use those visual clues to help yourself out. So color means a lot to me. And here's the best part of changing colors on your folders. It's only reflected in your own drive. So if I share this Elda folder with someone else and I change the color to whatever, that color is only reflected in my drive. It's not changing it for them, and vice versa. If they want to make it one color and you don't like that color for that particular folder, it's not going to impact. So here's how it goes. Select your folder, find my good buddy, the world's skinniest snowman. This is also why I save it to last, because I know that people are starting to get a little antsy and all this, and they're also probably going, ooh, color. I love it. Okay, so find your world's skinniest snowman, do a 2-finger tap, right click on the folder, whichever one you want. And then to change the color, it's as it is in a lot of these different apps, find the little artist palette wheel, click that change color, and bingo. Here you go. Pick a color that means something to you for that folder. For me, the elementary schools, even though our school colors are maroon and gold, for some reason I see my 2 elementary schools as green, but I have 2 of them, so I picked 2 different shades of green. So maybe I'm going to turn Elda slime green. The kids love this. Like they get so giggly at this point. They're like, ooh, slime green. And then they're like, ooh, asparagus. And I kind of like asparagus. I'm like, well, you're not eating it, right? I mean, you're just changing the color of the folder. Fern. I mean, the color names are enjoyable. Spearmint. Okay. And I tell the kids, pick a color. Pick a color. If you don't like it, guess what? Come back, 2-finger tap on it. Change that color again. Go with spearmint. Lovely, right? You could go through, you could have a rainbow of folder colors. Like me. I have a lot of different colors. And I know some people get a little disappointed and they'll say, well, Sarah, can I customize these colors? Like you talk about that extension that you really like, that color pick eyedropper. Can I go and can I grab the hex color and put it in here? And I say, no, not yet, not yet. Google hasn't given us that ability yet. Give them some feedback. Maybe they'll change it. But I also say then too, that dark gray, which I feel becomes like it just becomes kind of washed out because every folder starts out this gray, becomes a color then if you have the other colors. So it does give you 24, if I did the math right, 4 by 6, it gives you 24 different colors, which is lovely. And I'd say if you have more than 24 folders, rock on. You know, you're going to have to double up on the colors. Or that might be where you say, okay, no more folders for me. I've got to look at my organization again. And you kind of go back through that 6-step process of what are your big buckets. Maybe you've got 2 very tiny buckets and they really do work better together. And then you're back to, you can have the 24 colors. Or maybe you just don't care that much. I love the colors. So you can change the colors there. Let's go ahead and let's do it with Morgan as well. Let's give you a color. Let's go the darker green. And you see how that gray does actually become a color. I'm going to change other to yellow. Now, the cool part about this is when you change the colors of your folders, see how it changes it over here in your tree? If you're a person that also puts it on your phone and you have the Drive app on your phone, the folder colors come over to your phone too. Like, so when I pull up the Drive app on my phone, these folder colors will be reflected in there too. So it becomes very much a system. It really does. It works across computers, it works across phones, it works on tablets, and then you're for yourself. Keep in mind, you're changing this for you. You're visually changing this for me, just the same as if you wanted to go back to list view. Okay, so yay folder colors, right? Very exciting. Now, the other thing that I have on here as a bonus is adding in these emojis. And some people do look at me and they're like, Sarah, that's too much. That's entirely too much. And I say, no, it's not. It is not too much, because here's the thing. That little sunshine smiley guy right there, he really pops out to me. And he gives that folder a very clear designation. Now, he's smiling, he's got sunglasses on. What does that designation mean? It doesn't have to mean anything to you. It just has to mean something to me. So what I also suggest is using those emojis to help you also quickly visually differentiate between your folders. For example, if I go all the way back to my main drive, next to Google Photos, I put a little camera taking a picture. It's fun, but it's a very quick thing for me to see, like, that's photos. Yes, I can read that. But I also always think about this for my students. If this was a folder that I needed to share with my students, and maybe I'm working with students that are at the kindergarten, first grade level, not all of them can read. or read super well, or have all of their phonics down to the point where they can, chunk the words out. Or maybe I have special needs students, and this is a way that I can help them visually decide what this folder is. These emojis, while they seem silly, the colors might seem silly, but they can have a huge impact for our students if we know what we're doing when we go ahead and we use them. So down here, I always have this little teacher person next to my professional folders. And you might say, well, Sarah, how do we do that? You're talking about it. You've sold me. You don't just say like, emojis. Like, she's crazy. No. These emojis have a great impact on any of your folders. So let's go back into my newest folder. And let's pick something for this school year, shall we? So when you think about the school year, I always think about like time, because it's 1 year. So I think about calendars, and I can go, okay, so calendars, that's the emoji that I'm looking for. I did give you 2 links to websites. There are a ton of them out there. These are by no means like the best ones. It's just, they're the easiest ones for me to remember. Copy, paste character, copy, paste emoji. I love this one. And I believe we talked about this too, putting this in on the other Google applications. So I go to the website and I want to look for a calendar. So here are my options. I've got 3. Pick the one that suits you. I'm going to select over, like highlight over it. I'm going to copy it, the Command C option, Control C if you're on a Chromebook. I'm going to come back in here. I've got my folder selected. Do you remember the shortcut that I told you that you can click on to bring up the naming box? Yep, the letter N, or a 2-finger tap, or go up to this World's Skinniest Snowman. And then you have your folder name. Now I'm going to put it at the end, and I'm going to explain to you why in a second. So then I'm just going to do my Control V to paste in. Cute little calendar right there. And I say, okay. And there you go. It's now added that little emoji to the end of my name of this folder. And you say, well, Sarah, that's really cool, but why didn't you put it at the beginning? Like, doesn't that make sense? Here's why. For other, I'm just going to put in, let's do fireworks. Oops, not fireword. Firework. Let's pick this little, sparkles. That's fun. Let's copy that. Again, click on your folder that you want to change the name, tap the letter N on your keyboard for name. This time, let's pop it in front. You ready? Paste it in there. Just a little space, because I just like to have that space. Hit enter. Now, what did it do? It completely reorganized it. And remember how I said it's going to read numbers before it reads letters? This is an important thing to remember about your naming conventions, about putting in numbers, and about using these emojis. If you have a particular and very specific order of how you want things, and the emojis are going to impact that, if you put them first, it's going to put your icon at the very end. So you still see it, but it's not impacting the organization of it. You can't take these folders and drag them around. The most that you can do is you can reverse the direction of these folders so that it puts not A to Z, but now Z to A. But again, it's going to read these numbers and the emojis differently than it's going to read your alphabet. So keep that in mind too. That's why I say you have the option. If it's a folder like this one up here, I wanted my notes to always be at the top, so I put in a little notebook first. That forces that to stay at the top. So it can be a good thing, or it can be a bad thing if you go, that's not what I wanted. I didn't want that, Sarah. So you click on that folder. Again, type your N key for name, and let's get rid of it, and let's paste it at the end. And then you say okay, and it pops it right back down to where you wanted. Now let's talk about this with students. I kind of gave you a little example over here. For math, I put in more than one. because math could mean addition, subtraction, division, multiplication. Find the emojis that work and that are very simple. Science, I found a little microscope. And a little funny story to show you how effective this emoji is. I was getting ready to do, during this remote learning, a shorter dive into Google Drive organization for my district. And this one teacher emailed me and she said something about, she's like, I remember when you helped me, Sarah, and my folder still has the chicken leg next to it. And I was just kind of like, the chicken leg? I had to ask her. I was like, what do you mean it still has the chicken leg next to it? And she took a little screenshot. She said, do you remember when you helped me organize? I thought it would be fun, and I put a chicken leg next to my science folder. She said, not really for any reason. She said, I just thought it was fun. And she still had the chicken leg there. She's like, I think about it all the time. She's like, I know that that's my science folder. So she's associated that together. So I do believe, like, if you pick an icon that, or an emoji that works really well for your content, it goes a long way. But if you're struggling, just pick something fun and start associating them together. And it, like, that had to have been, because she's a teacher at the middle school. I haven't taught at the middle school for more than 4 years. So, I mean, we're talking, this was a while back. And she's like, yep, still there. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. That does go to show over time, it does really help. So keep that in mind too. But also keep in mind that it's going to impact your structure. A little tip, if I can throw one out there to help out with that, because it does read numbers. Another thing that you could, if you have a very, very, very specific order that you want them in, you could do like 0, 1. Let's say you always want L to 0, 2, 0, 3. Do you see how you can force that organization too? So again, this is where I say put a little bit of thought into how you're naming your folders, and it will go a long way to helping you out. Finding them, keeping them in order. And again, working with your students. If you have students, and I really do imagine this is for the older kids, right? Like the littler kids aren't doing really a whole lot in their drive at all. But when you start getting into 6th grade, 7th grade, and they're doing a lot more of their own creation and housing stuff in drive, they're going to need help with the organizing. They really, really, really are going to need help with it. And who better to teach them than you, right? I mean, that's another, like, a good thing to keep in mind. If you're going to assume that someone else has taught them, we might be assuming wrongly. So if you take 5 minutes and you go through a little bit of organization with them, it could very well pay off. And again, that's a skill not just for now. It's a skill that's going to last them long into their adulthood. All right, so that was my little word of caution. Careful with the naming conventions. Okay. So then here's where we do get into some of the deeper organization from inside of a file. How can you do? I've got some of these videos here when somebody else is sharing it with me. And this is pretty new because Google has adjusted the way that they're handling. If you share files with me, you're not adding it to your drive anymore. You're adding a shortcut, which the best thing I can say is it's like you're going to bookmark it somewhere in your drive. Okay, so this is very new. I'm not going to tell you that I'm 100% positive exactly. It tripped me up big time during this remote learning. It impacted our distance learning folders that we had shared out there with our parents. Because there was a hiccup in it on Google's end, not on my end. So when you go to your shared with me, and again, I have those videos to reference later because this becomes, especially after everything that we've just talked about, this kind of becomes, and it feels a little bit more of the nitty gritty. So when you get into the shared with me, and here is, let's pick, goodness gracious. Let's pick this file cabinet here, and we want to move it somewhere. So this is one of the first times that I've been in my drive and I've been organizing this shared with me stuff. This is a file that I want to keep. I want to hold on to it. I want to put it somewhere safely. Okay, but you can see that I am not the owner of it. Slidesmania is. So this blue commenting speech bubble box says, add a shortcut to Drive to open this file from wherever you need it. So I want to take this file cabinets and I want to put it in a folder for myself to have quick access to later. So I'm going to say, okay, it's still the same little Drive triangle that used to say, add to my Drive. Notice now it says add shortcut to Drive. So I'm going to click on it. And here's where you've got to do a little bit of digging in your folders. And this is more beneficial if you have done a lot of the legwork with your organization first. So I'm going to double click on my Drive. I'm going to find that newest folder. And I am going to put this in my other folder. So I'm just selecting the names. And I'm doing a I'm doing a double tap on it. And then you can see that I've got some files in here. Now, these are gray. I can't click on them because those are files, which is different than folders, right? I can put stuff in folders. I cannot put things in files. I'd have to open up the file and make some modifications. So this is the folder I want to put it in. I can either go ahead and click Add Shortcut here, or if I actually jump into the folder because I want to make sure this is the right one, now that I'm inside of it, I can also click Add Shortcut. Now in the bottom left-hand corner, do you see where it says Shortcut Added to Other? You say, okay, great. So now we're going to go back to my newest folder, and I put it in Other. By clicking on the name here, I navigate directly to that folder. And now do you see the difference? And this is big. Like in my brain, this is still kind of big. I get it, but it's a big difference. So before, this would have said Slidesmania here. It would have had a date and it would have a file size or this little dash thing, whatever was appropriate for that particular file. Notice this is the same thing. Like I made a copy of it. It's mine. This one right here, because you can see that I'm the owner. But this is Slidesmania's folder or file. And you see that little arrow. It's showing you that that's a shortcut. Very, very similar to shortcuts that live up here. Very similar to bookmarks that you have in other places. Taking literally a piece of paper and bookmarking something in a book. That's all we've done is we've just kind of marked this spot. I could go back to my shared with me and I could put that file cabinet in other places as well. And in fact, let's do that. So again, here's the process. You click on the file. You say, I want to add a shortcut to Drive. Navigate through your Drive. Decide where you want it. Add that shortcut there. And then when you navigate to it, there it is. It's a shortcut. It's a quick way for you to access it. It's not the actual file. It's not actually living there. It's living with the owner. And that's, it seems like a very, very silly difference. But those of us that have been using Google Drive, it feels a little bit different. I promise it's all good. It works. It happens, and it's an adjustment. And I think, Desiree, we talked about this at a different one, didn't we? Or was that something else? I feel like.
No, it was this. I have a video. I posted it in the chat as well of how to fix it. The thing that I like to do is just if you're going to drag it from Share It With Me into my Drive, just go ahead and drag it, and it's just going to be the shortcut. And then to actually make a copy, just open it, go to File, make a copy, and it'll do the same thing.
Yeah. So Desiree's got a resource for you. That's great. Because like I said, this is kind of newer. I think it really took full effect in April. So if you've not noticed it, I think it is pushed out to everybody. I don't think anybody is still waiting on this. Everybody's should be operating in this way. So, but I do know like that it looks different. It feels weird. we'll all get over it. Like Google changes stuff all the time. Like you just roll with it, right? Let's just roll with it and we keep on moving.
I pout, and then I roll with it.
I pouted big time on this one.
Yeah, it was.
I was like this close to tears on this one. I really was, because I was like,
it was. I still don't understand why that happened, but we do have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you know a way to print multiple PDFs without opening each one? I know there used to be a trick to doing that with like Google Docs and stuff, but I don't know it because I have to look it up every time. But I don't know about PDFs. So I told her she may have to Google that one, but I wanted to ask you anyway.
Did you say to open them or to print them?
To print multiple PDFs without opening them.
Okay, I think if I'm remembering right, there is and I can't remember if it's an extension or an add-on, or if it's called PDF Mergy. No, that's the one where it brings them together. I do believe that there is a way. I think you're right, Desiree. Again, that's not something that I do. I don't even know that I've ever printed that PDFs at one time. So that is definitely, and again, like I said at the very beginning of this webinar, Mary had emailed me, if she's still in here, thank you, Mary. Like it works wonderfully. It works like a charm. To get rid of the navigation bar in a slides presentation, I honestly just had never, I'd wanted to, but I just had never done anything about it. But because she asked me, and I was like, oh, maybe. And then I Googled it, and lo and behold, yeah. And there's multiple ways to do it. It kind of blew me away, and it excited me at the same time. So, yeah.
So Wanda put a link in the chat to help her out with that.
Perfect. Any other questions? Because we're getting down to the last.
No, ma'am. I don't know. Did you show how to share and make other people the owner?
Oh, no, I have not just yet. All right. So since I've got this up, let's do this. Google Doc. Again, like I'm not actually opening the file. And you notice how my toolbar does change up here based on what I have selected. I have a file selected up here. So I've got these icons. Do you recognize the sharing icon at this point? Hopefully people are that person plus. You can click on that. It even says share. When you hover, do a 2-finger tap, a right click. Again, these are all things that you can do in a lot of different applications. So here's the share. So if I wanted to share this, again, a newer look to the share menu. Don't be freaked out by it. It works the same. You type in a person, let's select them. If you uncheck that, they're not going to get that automatic email. If you leave it checked, you have the ability to send them a message. I wanted to share this with you, Sarah. Very nice, very polite. But maybe I don't want them to be an editor. So you can do, without even opening up this file. So they could be an editor, you could just give them commenting access, or you just want them to view it. And then you can say send. Now, likewise, what if you're getting ready to share this out to a bigger audience, not just a specific person? Again, go to your shared menu after you selected it. Down here, and this is really the big change. Like it used to be that these two were like flipped. So click on that change, and right now it says anyone with the link on the internet can view. You can adjust this, you can restrict it, and then only the people that have that specific link that were given that access are going to be able to open it or view it or comment or edit or whatever was the permission was that you gave them. And it gives you a nice little copy link here, or if you go, oh, no, I want everybody to. Anyone with the link, and notice it says they can view it, and you could give commenting or editing access as well down here. If you're sharing it out to a wider audience, really do think about this, because if you give everyone on the internet editing access, you're probably not going to have the same document in a week, depending on where you post it, right? If you share it out with students and that's the only place, you're fine. And just keep that in mind. here too. And then you click done. And you've just shared it. You can do the same thing too with your folders. So that was just a particular file. So either you're in that folder and you use the shark tooth drop down, or you do the same way. Select that folder, click on that person, and then you're going to share that with a specific person. Maybe this time I don't want to notify them. They don't need to get that email. Like, nah, they know it's coming. And then you click shared, and you've shared them. And oh, yellow is probably a bad color for that one. But you see, it now has that little person on it. So again, visually, it tells you that it is shared compared to district. It is not shared with anyone. That's only me. So little person on there, no little person. Questions?
Sorry, I'm typing. No, let's see. If you want to, oh no, that should be it. No.
Okay, one other last little icon that we don't talk about super often is, so far we have not talked about this one, is this lovely little waffle. And I just want to point this out because it does look slightly similar, but not exactly, as your grid view. When you see this waffle, and you'll see this inside of Drive, and you'll see this if you ever go to google.com. When you click on this, it does give you very quick access to a lot of the other apps. And the reason I point that out here in Drive is because I do know that a lot of teachers spend a lot of time in Google Drive, and they're organizing, or they, and it just makes a lot of sense to have very quick access to a lot of different things. So yes, you could go to new and click on this, but if you're a slides user, you can move these things around, which is something I don't know that is talked about all that often, but it's a great tool. You're in Drive. I don't really know that you need Google Drive up there, so you can click on it and just start moving it to where it better suits you. So if you constantly use Google Maps, maybe you could move that up here. Maybe you use YouTube because you're finding a lot of good content for your students. If you use Google Docs a lot and you want to bring that up a little bit higher, might have to do it twice. You can customize this little waffle menu very, very detailed, and you can even get more down here. So Google Arts and Culture is a fantastic tool that Google has. It's a website, but you can have quick access. So this is almost like another bookmarking menu for your big Google apps. So I just wanted to point that out up here too, because you do find that in Google Drive, and I do think that this is a very helpful place, especially for us teachers. Like if we want to quickly get to Google Sites or to our own account, or maybe you write a blog and you want to go to Blogger very quickly. This is a great place to find it. Now, just one word of caution, you might see things on here like Earth or Jamboard. These are some of the applications that can be restricted by your domain manager. So if these are things that interest you, you're going to probably have to have a conversation. But I do want to point those out because there are things in Google when you're in your school account, in your school domain, that can be restricted from being used. So keep that kind of thing in mind. And I think we are at the end. My biggest tip, the best piece of advice that I can offer, is once you have your Drive where you want it, or as you're working through getting your Drive where you want it, please title everything. Go to the folder that you want this file to live in and create it right there. Don't start every file when you're here in My Drive. Go to the folder, do the 5-second breadcrumb clicking, go here, and when you have this on your screen, then click the new and pick the item that you want to create. Don't wait and have to do it later, because then next summer your Drive's going to look atrocious again, and then you're going to have to sit down and be like, what Sarah promised me. But I also am suggesting to you very much, start right here bring it to life right here in the folder that you want it to live in. And it will go a long way for years to come in keeping your drive organized. Using Google Classroom or your LMS for student work. And then really you don't ever have to go to Shared With Me to find student stuff, because teach them and require them to be using that too. And it doesn't become that organizational nightmare. And then for subfolders, use them if they make sense. If they don't push yourself. Don't force that on yourself. Keep it simple, keep it clean. And I know that you can totally do this. I've helped numerous teachers do this. And we are right at our time. So I'm going to stop. Please do reach out. I've loved over the last couple of weeks, I have been tweeted at. I've gotten some emails. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to help you figure out what works for you, because if you're learning, that means I'm learning and I'm sharing. And that's my big passion. And that's why my website called Tech You Can Do is because I do believe you can do this. We all can. It's learning it. It's having somebody to help you out. And I'm here for you. So thank you again for coming. I hope that this was very beneficial to you. If you have any last minute questions, I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And Desiree, I'll go through and kind of look in the chat if you want to do some of the wrapping up.
That would be perfect. Okay, guys. So thank you to Sarah, like always, for an amazing class. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you.